Welcome to Expand Your Fempire with Caterina Rando, the podcast for women in business on a mission, sharing ideas to support you to grow, lead, and thrive. Now, here's your host, Caterina Rando.
Welcome back to another episode of the Expand Your Fempire podcast. I'm your host, Caterina Rando, and I am blessing to be with you today. I want you to imagine that an old friend reaches out to you and says, "Hey, I'm in town. I want to come. I want to hang out with you for the day." And you're excited for your friend to arrive, and you greet each other. As the day progresses, though, they point out all these little things that are not quite right. Boy, you've seemed to have slowed down. Wow, you've put on a bit of weight since I saw you last. Gee, is that really what you're doing with your life? These kind of comments you're hearing all day long. And as the day begins to come to a close, you notice yourself looking at your watch, hoping that the rest of the day goes by fast and your long ago friend is on their way. Well, when it gets time for your friend to say goodbye, they say to you, "You know what? I've had so much fun with you today. I think I'm going to stay in town for another day. I'll see you for breakfast in the morning." And as your friend smiles and says that to you, your heart drops. You get this yucky feeling all over. And you think to yourself, "I'm certainly not up for another day of this." Here's the thing. We have old friends like that. Unfortunately, they are with us every day. There are thoughts, or there are negative self-talk. They're messages that we heard from other people in our life when we were younger. And all of these thoughts are still with us. And sometimes they're very loud in our head during the day. I'm sure in past episodes, I've discussed the importance of no negative self-talk, something that we really have to train our brain to notice when we're having negative and worrying thoughts, to reframe those, to do our best, to be our own best success coach and be on our side, not on our back. To remember that, hey, we're supposed to be our biggest cheerleader, not our biggest critic. Now, hopefully, on your personal journey, on your entrepreneurial journey, you're already doing good in that vein. What I want to focus on with you in this episode is to begin to rethink all of the thinking that you think is great thinking, that you think is right thinking for you and your life. Let me give you an example. As you know, I do lots of retreats. I love doing retreats. We've done retreats for business women in Napa Valley and Hawaii and on lots of cruise ships. I love getting the ladies together for retreats. I know it is an awesome and amazing way for them to cultivate community, connections. And you know what? I've had more than a few gals say to me, "Caterina, I had so much fun and did more business on that ship in a week than if I was at my office sitting at my desk." I have always thought that to do an amazing retreat, there had to be several gals. In fact, the more, the better. The more gals to meet, the more women to connect with, the more potential revenue for the company, all good. Then this year, in April, I did a retreat with 5 participants. Let me tell you something. This was an amazing retreat. The ladies loved it. I loved it. It was easier to do than the big retreats. They created even more connection than the big retreats. Also, I have always thought, okay, well, when you have a retreat, you have to have a lot of programming, because if they don't have something to do, they'll get bored. Guess what? Rethought that too, because I've seen free time is very important. Relaxation time, rejuvenation time, very important. Also, there's this thought that you've heard 100,000 times that content is king, which means when you're doing something, you got to have a lot of content. You know what? Forget about king. Let's talk about engagement is the queen of everything. Now, engagement means people are interacting with you. Yes, social media, but that's not what I mean. I'm speaking specifically about retreats right now and group programs and events. And on this fabulous, small, intimate retreat that we did, we had a lot of activities. We did group karaoke. We did afternoon tea with telling stories. We did a city tour of San Diego. And then I scheduled 90 minutes for a mastermind. That meant come together, everybody join me in my mini suite, we'll get some munchies, and we'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. That 90-minute session turned into a 5.5-hour session. And it showed me that I had to rethink what I thought was the best way to spend time, what I thought was the right number for a retreat for women in business. As a result, in our year-long mentorship program, we will now always be including an intimate mastermind retreat. Yeah, we'll still do some stuff, but we'll do a lot less activities and more time simply for the ladies to connect, share ideas, resources, be together. Engagement is the queen of everything. Our business may often cause us to rethink our direction, may cause us to rethink our decisions, and may cause us to rethink the standard operating procedures by which we are running our businesses and our lives. I want to tell you about one of my fabulous clients, Tracy Root, the founder of the Gather community. She is also a coach for women to live boldly in their personal and business lives. I was working with Tracy to get her Gather location open in Santa Cruz, where she lives. I remember opening day when many of the people from her community gathered in her beautiful space that she had created to celebrate the opening of this place. She had big round tables and lots of chairs for workshops and events. We hosted a workshop there. I remember taking pictures of all the gals as they came to the front of the room to speak and be witnessed, presenting to an audience. It was a beautiful place, a very special space, inspiring. Tracy loved having her location. Having my own center, I, of course, knew her bliss and her joy of having realized this dream. Then the pandemic started. It was only a few months after she had opened the door. And of course, like all of us in the beginning, we thought everything is going to be fine. We're going to be back at it in a couple weeks, worst a couple months. Well, paying rent on a location that's not getting any use, a business can only do for so long. Tracy was forced to rethink her gather space. And that is where the gather community was born. Instead of her live and in-person location, she created a virtual community, an amazing virtual community. Lots of speakers, lots of connection, game night, virtual game night, where we play categories and other games. My favorite is really Trivial Pursuit. I'm not that good at categories. Women connecting with women all over. It's working. It's flourishing. There's no space anymore in Santa Cruz. And that's okay, because she has found a way. She had to rethink it to make it work. Because here's the question I want to make sure you're asking. Not can it work, but how can it work? Well, I tried this, it didn't work. Instead of throwing in the towel, how can it work? This is where your determination comes in. That's a business skill that I want to tell you we do not talk about enough. Determination is how you stay in business. Determination is how you grow. Determination is how you solve the challenge du jour. Determination plus rethinking what you believe has to be the way. I used to have this belief that I wanted to serve clients that I could break bread with. I wanted to serve clients that I could meet for dinner, that I could go to their area and visit their live and in-person office if they had one. Here's what I used to do. I used to go to the 916, the 510, the 925, the 707, the 408, the 650, and the 831. Those are all the area codes north, east, and south of where I live in San Francisco, on the edge of the continent, about 20 blocks from the beach. Therefore, there's no area codes west of me, only north, south, and east. I would drive to these different area codes to do a workshop, 1 hour, 90 minutes, live and in person, in a different location, a hotel, a co-working space, maybe even someone's living room, one of my favorite things to do. Because my thought was, well, people have to meet me and I want them to come see me. And if they don't know me, they probably don't want to come to Timbuktu. Let me go to them. This was a ton of work, and it worked for getting new clients. It took a ton of time though. And some nights it would go phenomenal and some nights not so phenomenal. Here's my point. When the pandemic started, I was already doing hybrid workshops, gals in the room, gals virtual at the same time. Going virtual was not a challenge or a concern for me. The rethinking part was giving up the on the ground. The rethinking part was losing this idea that I could only have clients that were in my area, because if they lived on the other side of the country, I wouldn't meet them live and in person, and I wouldn't be able to go to afternoon tea or have dinner with them or visit their place of business. That is a fact. I can't do that on a regular basis. The other part of the rethinking, though, was that I thought, well, I can't serve them as well. Now, while it's so much fun to have afternoon tea with the ladies, and it's so much fun to be with them live and in person and give them a hug. They still get massive value when they live on the other side of the country, or they live in Canada or Barbados, or even in another country. They still get massive value. That is what I had to rethink. Now, I've even let go of all the big live and in-person events that we used to do at the big hotels, invite people to come. And yes, we would gain clients and we would have a great time and we would give massive value. Now, though, we do it virtual. We do our Bliss Summit, our Shiro Speaker Summit, our Fempire Summit. We do it virtual. And it is different and still delivering massive value. And I encourage you to rethink what you're offering, who your clients are, how you do your sales, how you deliver your service. Rethink it all with the intention and the plan to do it even better. To do it so that it does two things: brings you more bliss and brings your clients more bliss. I had a client tell me yesterday that I have brought so much happiness to her life. This warmed my heart more than most things I've ever heard. That's what we're doing with our business when we're doing it right. A few years ago, I asked myself a very good question. It's the questions we ask ourselves that give us answers that help us continue to be innovative and help us relook and rethink. In the past, I would start in October to look at all of my clients and see if I wanted to serve them next year, if I had a way to serve them well next year. And I would start to talk to them in October about next year. Then I asked myself, well, what if I started to talk to gals in September? And so that year I started to talk to gals in September. And you know what? It may have been as many as 30 signed up in September for the next year. So then the next year I said, oh, September went well. Let me see if I can start in August. Now, in August, I will say, some gals said to me, Caterina, it's too early to talk about next year. Many gals were ready to sign up for next year in August. That went well. So last year, I started in July. And I said, well, if August went well and September went well, maybe July. Now, I did not get as many signups in July as I did the year before in August, but I still got some, which meant I was ahead of the game for August and September. And by the time the year rolled around, we were way ahead of the game. Well, this year I was planning to do it again in July. The thing is, though, in April, a couple gals said to me that they wanted to be in the big Expand Your Fempire mentorship program next year. Well, I learned early in my career, if somebody wants to give you money, you better figure out how to take it. And even though I wasn't planning on figuring out the next year in April, I certainly did within a few days. And not only did those two gals sign up for the next year, I decided to keep going. And the program for next year was 80% full by the end of April for the whole next year. Here's what I learned. It's never too early to start having conversations with people that are already working with you, that are eager to continue to work with you. So I'm asking you, when do you start to talk to your clients about sticking around? I've also had clients sign up for 2 and 3 years at a time. I didn't think that was possible either. So what I'm asking for you is for you to rethink and relook. Because if you want to scale and grow, yes, it's about SOPs and expanding your team and expanding your visibility and all of that. The thing it's really about, though, I want you to hear, is what are the thoughts that are informing your actions? And let's rethink those. My friend, you've got a lifetime supply of value to bring. I'm hoping that our conversation today is supporting you to rethink how you're doing your thing so that you can do it even better moving forward. Caterina Rando, always an honor and a privilege to be with you. Join me for an upcoming workshop or summit. Workshops are free every month. Summits are always awesome, a small fee, because I want to do everything I can to support you, to be yourself, do your thing, serve your people, and massively monetize your mastery. Love to you. Talk to you next time.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Expand Your Fempire with Caterina Rando.